So I guess just to start, tell me, how has it been so far? It's been a little over a month since you were sworn in. Is that right?
Yeah, this is my 10th week.
10th week.
So,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, how has it been so far for you?
I absolutely love it. This is an amazing agency, and the men and women that I work for are very motivated to really, rebuild that community engagement, and it's been phenomenal.
And is this a position you hope to stay in?
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha. And then obviously you've been in law enforcement for decades, but in the same area, but never with the Tacoma Police Department. How is it different here than working with the sheriff's office?
Right. So there is a big difference, yet it's small differences, if that makes sense. So, working for the municipality, just kind of learning, the differences in how the structure is and how, we answer to serve the community, from an elected versus an appointed position. But as far as getting down in the meat and potatoes of what a law enforcement agency is for, to actually, go out and serve the public and safeguard the communities, it is identical. We struggle with some of the same, staffing issues, things, just things of the nature that we're hearing across the nation.
And is the crime kind of similar that you would deal with the Pierce County Sheriff's Office in here?
Very much so.
Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the biggest public safety challenges in Tacoma right now that the police department's addressing?
Right. So I think that some of the challenges that we as an agency face is just the blatant lawlessness that's been out there. And so we have men and women that have decided to selflessly go into a law enforcement career, that even more so than when a 35-year veteran, right, started, to where now you're going, okay, you're having to answer calls more to, that involve people that are in crisis, right? They're suffering from mental health issues, they're suffering from drug addictions, challenges like that, when people don't have money, kind of what that does to somebody. And so we are really trying to teach, the men and women that are coming into this profession, kind of how to deal with that, at the same time also be able to try to, really hold people accountable for committing crime.
And I know we've done multiple coverage of homicides recently in Tacoma, and I think it's about double where it was at last year. How can the police department, I guess, better address or continue to address this violent crime that we're seeing right now this year?
Right. So we're not quite at double, but it is, getting there. And I will tell you that one of the things I think that people really want us to be, somebody that we can kind of predict certain crimes. It's hard to, predict domestic violence crimes, issues along those lines. But as far as when you're getting in the violent crime, really what we're doing is, as an agency, going, okay, what is the data showing out there? What are the areas, and how can we better get out there, be seen, be visible, and try to disrupt individuals that are committing those crimes, right? Make it so, this is not an area that you're going to be able to do these things, to commit these actions that you're doing. And if you do, we're going to arrest you. We're going to hold you accountable. And that is working.
And then I know that Chief Avery Moore had kind of started up the violent crime reduction plan. Are you carrying that on, or kind of what's that look like now?
Right, and so really what we're doing on that, we're really addressing prevention and accountability and partnerships, and we're really trying to get upstream, upstream in front of violence. And so that actually, it tailors on to what Chief Avery Moore was doing. And we have really, we're addressing, like what we had talked about, that crime we're disrupting those hot spots now. We have special teams or set missions that are going out, and those are individuals that are dedicated to addressing those hot spots. And they're not necessarily the same group of people that are answering those calls for service. And so we're able to be there. And of course, if something big would, take place in our community, we would then address that, by those individuals. But for the most part, they're able to go and just address just the issues that we're seeing, that violent crime.
So is that kind of patrolling the areas where we're seeing more crime?
Right, it patrols the area, and so I have had just really it was actually an honor. I did go out with one of the set teams, and when I went out, I had not only, that firsthand experience of seeing what the community, is taking place in the community that I'm now serving. I also got to see the people in action, and it was something that was amazing to watch. The individuals that have now learned who our team members are by name, they were responding to them and saying, yeah, I'm trying, or, I took care of that warrant, or, thanks. And our officers were digging in their pockets, and here's resource information to help you get up off the streets, and spending time with the individuals that are actually hurting. We're pushing, we can be compassionate, but then we've told them, and the message was strong and clear. We'll be compassionate up to a point. And then when you fail, right, to really respond to that, and you're committing crime in our city, you're going to go to jail.
And then I know in Tacoma Public Schools in April, they lost 3 students to gun violence. Kind of talking on the prevention side, how can we prevent, young people in the community from having guns or getting killed by guns?
Well, first off, I loved what you just asked. You said, how can we prevent it? That is not something that Tacoma Police Department can do solely alone. And, we are responding, and, you respond to the emotions, that loss, that not just the family member that has lost, their loved one's life, but then also the other individuals that, are experiencing that in the community that they've chose to live in and raise their kids. And so we are working, we've got a meeting coming up with the school districts as well to see what their plans are, how we can enhance that. Community are building those programs out there that say, let's focus on giving, youth something to do, right? What can we do, and how can we help better, keep people engaged and being part of the community? It's time to take that back. And I do believe that is going to you will see some value to that. It's not going to change overnight, but it is something that the police department cannot do alone. So again, thank you for saying we, because it is a we problem.
And then I know over the past few years, there are some people in the community that have lost trust specifically in this department, specifically with the death of Manny Ellis was a big piece of that. How are you going to work to build up that relationship and build trust again with the community in this department?
Right. And that's just not a Chief Jacksonism, right? That is something that I want to make certain that people that are listening here, that is something that was actively being done. And I'm coming on and also, bringing that and really hitting it home. I have spent almost, the full time that I've been here engaging in community activity, engaging in meetings with the community, to hear what they have to say, to listen to what they have to say. And it is pretty much across the board. People aren't saying, solve this for me. They're saying, what can we do also to partner with you to make this happen? And so that is telling me that we're on a great, trajectory. We're going in the right direction to earn that trust back. It's not going to happen overnight again. I hate to keep using that buzzword, but it is something that it's not like, oh, well, it's never worked before, let's just stop doing it. And so we are seeing, some very positive, movement in that direction. Individuals that I would have never thought would want to engage, in the police department. I'm not going to call anybody out by name. They were in here in a meeting with us just last week, and it was a positive meeting.
Do you think that trust and relationships can still be further improved?
Absolutely, 100%.
And then with Chief Avery Moore, obviously he was here for around 3 years and then recently resigned. I know the Deputy Chief, Paul Younger, was recently fired. With kind of the instability with leadership in the past few years, what's your message to both the community and the employees who are under you?
Right. So I think one of the biggest things, and I want to make certain that everybody understands that, make no mistake, and you said it yourself, I understand I did not grow up within, Tacoma Police Department, but I did grow up nearby, and I do have a stake, and I do have ownership in the Tacoma Police Department. And I believe that we have some amazing talent in this agency. And so we've already kind of realigned some of that leadership, and we've put people where we think best serving for the operations as a whole. And then we're also working towards, building those programs, putting that training in place so that as we do see movement, people do this as a career. You earn the right to, retire. You earn the right to live out what you've worked so hard for. But there are people that are here, that they stay here, and you talk about a retention reward. How much more of a reward can you get than saying, thank you, you believe in me, you trust in me, I too can be part of this leadership team. And that is what we're working towards.
And I know you expressed that you want to stay in this position. Obviously, right now it's interim.
Yes, ma'am.
How important is it having stability in leadership, do you think, at a department? Like you said, sometimes people retire, but having been with Pierce County, you know,
Right.
for more than 30 years,
Right.
is it really important to have kind of a stable leadership in a department?
100%. And the reason that that's so vital is because it is that's that heartbeat of that organization. It's that historical knowledge. And not only for, oh my gosh, that won't work, you know, that negative naysaying going forward, but the things that you've got that potential to say, this has worked, and it's worked really well. And these are the things that we need to do. And this is what we need to be able to spend our resources on and just really be, you know, be diligent to the taxpayers in saying that, hey, these are the directions that we need to take to be able to best serve you.
And I know that some documents we got this week showed that Deputy Chief Paul Younger was fired by you after an outside investigation showed gender discrimination and a hostile work environment. Is there anything you can share or want to share about that decision?
No, ma'am. That is something that you know, I think is working to be addressed.
And then has anyone been assigned to fill that position yet, or is that still in the works for the deputy chief position?
So we have filled that internally. And so we went and selected, and I selected, and I worked with, obviously, you know, the leadership team that was in place, and, you know, we talked about the best movement, and then be able to best prepare others to take on the, you know, the role in the event that, you know, that individual does retire, which are, you know, imminent plans in the near future. So we have filled that, and then, and that has been filled by now Deputy Chief Frank Krause. He's been with the department for 35 years. And then also now Assistant Chief Ryan Lane has moved up and is working to oversee our operations, you know, area right now, our division. And then Assistant Chief Haskins has moved over to oversee our investigations team. And then our Services Bureau remains steady in place with Assistant Chief Chris Carl.
And then are there any specific changes you'd be hoping to make here at the Tacoma Police Department?
I think that trying to come in and change everything is, you know, a bad move, right? I think that history has proven that. But I do think there are things that people want changed. And so the biggest thing the biggest value that I add is coming in and saying, okay, what kind of things, if given the chance, you know, that we could change right now that would make a difference, that would shift us from, you know, let's just say it out loud. A lot of people, oh, you know, morale has never been worse. I've been, like you say, decades, you know, deep, and never once, even when times were the best, do you hear somebody, oh, morale's never been better. But given that chance, if there's a shift in something, what would that be? And so really, you know, what we're looking at, you know, we don't always have to look at the newest equipment that's out there. What about working on the equipment that we do have, replacing that so we're actually in this decade, right? And, you know, things of that nature. And so we've really been doing that. And you see a difference. And if you walk through the halls here, right, you will see that people are engaged in, I think, healthy conversations. They're laughing, you know. I walk through and I've told them I'm human and I want to be addressed like every other person that, you know, you work with and for. And it's been very positive.
And then I guess if you had to say what your top 3 goals would be in this role, what would you say those are?
So, I mean, one of the goals is obviously to work hard to make this agency the agency that people want to come to. And I can tell you that you know, there's always going to be people going, oh, I'm going to come over there and work, or I'm going to wait to see if you're, you know, whatever the case might be. It's a scary move to go agency to agency. And I want to make sure that I'm saying I'm not looking to just go out and just rebuild, you know, Tacoma Police Department with other members from, you know, other departments, because you want agencies that can support each other. right? And so, but at the same time, there are people across the nation that have experience as, law enforcement officers, individuals that might want to become a law enforcement officer, and I want them looking at our agency and saying, this is the agency I want to come to. And so that's one of the goals that I have, and we have a phenomenal, just the individuals who are serving as, recruiters and doing our background process and really out there trying to get the public to engage and come on are doing a phenomenal job. So, I mean, that has been one of them. The other is just really listening, again, I've told you that we do this on the outside. What does the community need? What does the agency need? What is it going to take? And then there are things that we can change, and then there's things that you can't. But then being transparent with that and communicating that to our agency members so that they know we're not going to get a pony for Christmas, right? It's not going to happen. But this is what we're going to get instead. And so that is really, forward moving. And I think just finally, being able to recognize if I'm doing great things for this department and it's a good fit, fantastic. But also on the same token, there are individuals that maybe, being right in this role isn't the best for them. It's detrimental to the agency members also. So being able to recognize that. If I'm not making that difference for internal and, then the community external, it's time to say, I've done a great job, it's time to move on.
Is there anything you want to touch on that you want the community to know that maybe we didn't talk about yet?
Yeah, I think I would ask the community the same thing that I'm asking, the department members. Give us grace. Give me grace, right? I am human. I have, I'm not out chasing a title. I've obviously 35 and a half years, right? I know we say decades or over 30, 35 and a half, and we've talked before, ma'am, about that half was a big deal to me. And so I'm just asking for that grace and saying, hey, I'm doing this because there's no better time to step up for leadership. The calling said that leadership is needed. I have that skill set to bring. Yes, I do my best. We talked a little bit about it. I try not to read the comments, and you really have to shut out that outside noise. You don't think that I see wrinkles when I look in the mirror? You don't think I see that I could use a haircut or something along those lines? I absolutely do. But what I ask the community to look for is, what am I doing to provide you with officers who are well, because that's what we need to take care of, right? And who are coming out here every single day, every single call to serve this community as they deserve to be served.
And obviously the end of last year, the election for Pierce County Sheriff, I'm sure you didn't really see this happening back then.
Right.
Do you think things kind of worked out how they were supposed to?
I do. I think things worked out how they're supposed to. I think that, when you run for an election, you have to have that ability, and I have. You do not hear me out there bad-mouthing anybody or trying to say what I would do differently, because that's not my role. Right? My role is to do exactly what I've been empowered to do. And I think that we asked the community to make a decision. What is it you're ready for? And they weren't ready for Patti Jackson. Okay? Yeah, it hurts the ego a little bit. It hurts the pride, because that is something that I know that I had a skill set for. Being asked to serve in this role is an honor that there's no words that I can express that. And I can tell you this, I will show up every single day doing the best job that I can do, every single day.
You have any questions, Jordan?
Can you talk about, the mayor is a woman, the city manager is a woman, fire chief is a woman, you are a woman. How important is that Tacoma actually has that kind of representation?
Right.
Especially in leadership roles.
Right. I think that it's something that you're seeing more of across the nation, and I think that when you look at the county as a whole, for example, that's really something that I chose, not to run on. It was mentioned a couple times, but I don't believe that certain areas were ready for that. I believe that Tacoma is progressive. I believe that Tacoma does look for the best fit. And if we're saying that we're, somebody that's open to, it's not gender specific, we're demonstrating that. And I think that there is a place for, individual skill sets in that leadership role, and I happen to have what we're looking for.